Welcome and thank you for joining us at the Rye City Council Candidates Forum. I'm Liz Rotfeld, co-president of the Rye Brook in Portchester chapter of the League of Women Voters. Before we begin, please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you so much. So our league is nonpartisan. It neither supports nor opposes candidates. Our members are women and men from a wide variety of neighborhoods and political perspectives. And what we share in common is our dedication to encouraging the informed and active participation of people in our government at all levels. We are always looking for new members and volunteers, so please don't be shy. Please allow me to introduce our moderator for this evening, Marcia Brewster of the River Towns League. She has served as president of the United Nations Association Westchester chapter for many years. Having worked at the United Nations for over 30 years, she devoted her career to programs related to water and sanitation, sustainable development, and gender equality. We thank her for being here this evening, and at this time, I shall turn over the forum to Ms. Brewster.
Thank you very much, Liz. And good evening to our candidates and to audience participants. It's my pleasure to be here. In accordance with league policy, I am not a voter in this district. I am pleased to introduce 5 out of the 6 candidates for the 3 open seats on the Rye City Council. The council member candidates running for a 4-year term are Marian Anderson, Robin Jovanovich, Amy Kesavan, Maria Shuck, and James Ward. The 6th candidate, James Fee, could not attend tonight due to circumstances beyond his control. A link to the forum will be available on the local league website, www.ryerbpc.org. Our timekeepers this evening are Jackie Quaylar and Renata Vanderwater. Welcome to you all. Before we get started, I would like to go over a few ground rules. The order of opening statements has been determined by lots that were drawn before the meeting. The order of closing statements will be in the reverse order as the opening statements. The order in which candidates will respond to questions will be rotated by the moderator to assure fairness. Throughout the forum, no comments of a personal or abusive nature will be permitted. The moderator will rule this out of order. The allotted time frame for opening and closing statements will be 2 minutes. The timekeeper will indicate when 30 seconds remain in the allotted time and with a yellow sign, and when the time is up with a red stop sign. The opening statements will be followed by 50 minutes of 5 or more questions prepared by the league from questions submitted prior to candidates' night by email and electronic form. These questions have not been shared with the candidates prior to this evening's forum. No questions from there will be questions from the audience allowed. The moderator will address each question to each candidate, and each candidate will have 1.5 minutes to respond. The order in which candidates respond will be rotated by the moderator to ensure fairness. Question response times will be strictly enforced. The timekeeper will indicate when 30 seconds remain and when to stop. A candidate will be allowed to finish a sentence once started. If an audience member wishes to ask a question, please fill out an index card being handed out by our facilitators and return it to them. We have allotted 30 minutes of audience Q&A, and again, candidates will have 1.5 minutes to answer. During closing statements, each candidate will have 2 minutes to speak. The candidates will not interrupt one another or the moderator during the forum. The moderator will have the authority to pause the proceedings to enforce the ground rules and the format. Except for time limits, the only restriction on candidate statements are respect and civility. We will begin with opening statements. I will call them in the order in which they were chosen out of the hat. Candidates, you will each have 2 minutes to make an opening statement, and the first statement will be from Robin.
Thank you. Do I push this? Let's not start the timer yet. Just push?
I think so. It looks like it's on, no? No.
Hi.
Yes.
Good evening. My name is Robin Yovanovich, and I thank my stars that the 5th time Bill Henderson asked me to run on his slate, I relented. It was meeting his running mates, Maria Schuck and James Speed, that sealed the deal. The fact that all 3 of them went to law school and are avid golfers didn't dissuade me in the least. What we all share is a desire to make a difference in a community we love. My love for Rye began 33 years ago when my husband's job in educational publishing brought us back to New York. We researched every town within a 30-mile radius of Manhattan and narrowed our search quickly to Rye. Rye has long been a desirable community to live in, but homes with potential and within most mortals' price range have never been plentiful. We fell for a Victorian within walking distance of train in town that 97 families had toured and not one had made an offer on. Always up for a challenge, we spent the next 7 years restoring it. More importantly, within a few weeks of our arrival, we were given a free membership to the Rye Arts Center, and before I knew it, I was on the board. Rye is a place where residents volunteer and give back willingly. I served on the Rye Library Board for a dozen years, running the annual book sale for 10 of them. As a deacon at Rye Presbyterian for 3 years, I took on the assignment of bringing flowers from our church to the Osborne, and I wrote and gave out handwritten notes. It was to writing and a paying job that I returned to in 1998 after years of freelance work while raising our 2 sons when I became a contributor to the Rye Record. Shortly before 9/11, I became editor and co-publisher of the paper. At the end of that tragic and tumultuous year, my husband was diagnosed with an idiopathic and terminal pulmonary disease. I credit Rye, our friends, the bonds we made, the strangers who left meals on our front porch, for helping extend and enrich my husband's life for another 20 years. If given the opportunity to serve, I will dedicate myself to helping ensure that our small, special city is well cared for, its more than 16,000 residents listened to, and its natural beauty and historic character long preserved. One sentence.
Thank you. Sorry. Thank you, Robin. Marion, you are next.
Okay, I'm Marion Anderson. I have lived in Rye all my life, born here. My parents came to Rye City in the late 1940s and bought property in Glen Oaks for $500 at auction. Prices have gone up since then, right? My dad was a carpenter and he helped build Osborne School. So that big rock in the back of the school was something that he decided needed to stay there back in the 1950s when Osborne was built. I've always been a person who's willing to step in. Always been a person who is interested in history. I really strive to help other people. I'm willing to work with others. I have worked very hard in Rye. I was a director to Kids Space of Rye, and it was a floundering little organization at that time, and I decided that I would be better help to it to become the board chair. So I switched from director to board chair. It is now a very successful organization. It is, I think, 30 years old, or close to 30 years old. I am on their advisory board and have been on the advisory board for 20 years. It is a great after-school program for children ages kindergarten through 5th grade. I've got 30 seconds left. I've also worked with the school district. I have done curriculum planning. I was on the UPK committee. I am an early childhood consultant that has worked at Rye Presbyterian Church and at Christ Church. I have worked throughout the county on various boards, Carver Center Board as a vice chair. A lot of experience in business, not-for-profit, and running my own business.
Thank you. Amy, you're next.
Good evening. I'm Amy Caseman. I'd like to start by thanking the League of Women Voters for hosting tonight's forum, Josh Nathan, James Ward, and Marian Anderson for their wisdom and support, and my opponents for tonight's civil debate. 13 years ago, we chose Rye for the same reason many of you did: waterfront access, quiet neighborhoods, a charming downtown, and exceptional schools. But today, we stand at a crossroads because our community is changing. We have new development proposals that don't fit the character of our small community, neighbors experiencing flooding on an increasing basis, and I've noticed neighbors clashing when we should be working together. I'm ready to stand up for the very best of our community, to preserve what's best and plan for what's next. Throughout my life, I've worked to bring people together. In civil service in the Air Force, I worked with our allies to cooperatively develop and deploy new technologies for our troops. As a nonprofit leader, I foster collaboration in our community, and as a mom, I'm an on-call food and logistics provider. I've been meeting Rye residents and hearing the same question: how are we going to keep Rye, Rye? We need to put neighborhoods first, adding thoughtful developments, adopt friendly design principles, discourage teardowns, and support recreational facilities that meet the needs of our local families. We need to finally adopt a master plan, and I mean it, let's get it done. Let's plan how we're going to promote self-service, parking solutions, safe streets, all while maintaining our quiet charm. Rye must become 100% flood resilient. No family should be displaced or forced to bear crushing expense because of a rainstorm. On November 4th, I hope I can count on you to vote Row A for Rye, to preserve the best and plan for what's next.
Thank you very much, Amy. Maria, you're next.
Thank you for coming, and a special thank you to the League of Women Voters for arranging this event. I'm Maria Shuck, and I'm running for City Council together with Robin Jovanovich, Bill Henderson, who's here today, and James Fee, who's not here today. We are running on a truly bipartisan ticket. I have the utmost respect for Amy, Marian, and James, and I really do agree we are civil and we are friends, although some of us have just met. My own ticket, we are the All In for Rye team. My husband and I moved to Rye 32 years ago. We didn't have any family here. We have basically a very small family. But Rye adopted us, and then we adopted Rye. The whole community is our family, and we are just exhilarated to be here today. Now, you hear some accent. I am Swedish. I was born and raised in Sweden, and some of my words are not perfectly pronounced in English. We are blessed to have two wonderful sons that we've raised in the house that we bought in 1993 that we still live in. Until the end of last year, I worked for a very large international law firm, and my specialty was doing large corporate global reorganizations. In this work, I worked with many accountants, lawyers, business people from all over the world, getting things done on time. I've also managed the New York office, had P&L responsibility for 25 years. I've been the first woman chair of several nonprofit and professional organizations. I'm still on audit committees, I'm still the chair. I have several events in New York, so I know how to run a board. But I'm not proud.
Thank you very much. James?
Good evening. I'm Rye City Councilman James Ward. First, I'd like to thank the League of Women Voters for hosting tonight's forum. I'd also like to thank my running mates, Josh, Amy, and Marian, for their support and dedication to our campaign. And finally, I'd like to thank my opponents for tonight's opportunity to engage on issues that facing our city. Last year, I was elected to serve a one-year term on the City Council. But before I even considered running for office, I was making an impact in Rye. I chaired this Rye Sustainability Committee for 4 years, and 2 years ago I co-founded the Rye Sustainability Foundation. Our work has collectively made Rye a safer, more sustainable, and financially sound place. Our project have eased flooding risk and improved the quality of life in our community. Now, serving on Rye City Council, I'm continuing the charge. We've worked hard to stop overdevelopment, setting a 35-foot cap on downtown building heights, and directing the creation of design standard for new construction. We've also stood up the utility companies by taking Con Edison into court over their rate hikes and joining Westchester Power to give community members real choice. We've worked to protect the environment by advancing natural flood barriers for the Rye Brook and stopping the development of 67 Grant Ave. We've accomplished a lot, but there's a long way to go. I'm running for re-election because I want to keep Rye the kind of place we all want to raise our family in. Safe, sustainable, and financially sound. We're facing big practical challenges, and making city government more efficient without burdening taxpayers is important. But with comprehensive long-term planning and open community dialogue, I know we can rise to that challenge. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, James. Now it's time to start with the questions. Each candidate will be given an opportunity to answer each question, and we will rotate who answers first. You will each have 1.5 minutes to respond. The first question: name one issue the City Council voted to approve this year and explain why you agree or disagree with their decision. Marion, you're first.
I'm first. Okay. I think I would like to agree and support the decision that was to, I've got two things. One is very self-serving, so I'm going to do the self-serving first. The City Council voted unanimously to support a project that I brought in front of them. And it was before I even decided to run for council. So I'm thrilled to tears. It came to fruition, and it was renaming the Rye City train station, Station Plaza, to the name of Paul and Oriole Red, who were civil rights leaders in Rye. So I love that decision. It was a great historical moment for the city of Rye. It's something that will tie into the curriculum for the school district, that it will be something that lives on forever in the community. So I just think it was a big, important work. And I think it was awesome because the entire council and mayor voted unanimously to support it.
Amy?
I, of course, support that as well. Marion did an excellent job on that, and I really want to commend her on that. Another decision the council voted on this year was the decision to stay in Westchester Power and offer that as our default choice. I think that was the right decision for really one word that was key in that, and that was the word choice. Without Westchester Power, we have a monopoly, we have rising interest rates, and we have no options to be stuck with anybody other than Con Ed. So I did support the decision to stay in Westchester Power. I also supported the leaf blower ban that I wish they would have carried through with. I think that that is a quality of life issue in Rye. But really the biggest thing I think is the Westchester Power choice that we provided our residents.
Thank you, Amy. Maria?
I think I agree with Marion. I think it was a significant day in our history of Rye when we renamed Station Plaza, or whatever that street was called before, is still called. And I admire the Red family, and I think the way Marion was able to get that through, and City Council and City Manager were very helping, I think, and I think that shows how we can do really great things in Rye in short term, and with the cooperation of all for good people. And so I think that was a wonderful, wonderful decision.
Thank you. James?
Thank you. So I agree with a lot of what the candidates have said today, and I'll give something different. So a review of the Ethics Committee was brought to the floor, a resolution to review the Ethics Committee was brought to City Council. I voted against it. I deeply appreciate the mayor's contributions to the community and his service over time, but I felt like the volunteer group that runs the ethics committee are experts, deep in knowledge, and understand those things. I think it was bringing up issues that would hurt the community that we were divisive on before, and I thought it was not a good use of funds. And I believe that if the ethics committee itself needed something from the city council, we would listen to them and vote appropriate those funds as necessary.
Thank you. Robin?
I'd like to go back to something that James mentioned in his opening remarks about approving restricting the height of buildings downtown. I think that was a very important thing to vote on. And obviously, the dedication of Station Plaza. But like Amy and others, I'm also disappointed that we didn't vote on leaf blowers and fixing that problem. And I really hope by the end of the year we will have arrived at a new and permanent city manager, which we haven't gotten to so far. So I think I'm hopeful about the future, and I'm very hopeful about some new members of the city council and what they will contribute and making it a more creative body.
Thank you very much. Question number 2. Would you recommend a citywide reassessment appraisal of all properties in Rye to address the perception that older homes are overtaxed or undertaxed relative to new ones, and in particular that condominiums do not carry a fair share of the tax burden relative to single-family homes? Amy, you are first.
Right now, I would not support that without knowing a little bit more about the issue. And the reason why is because I think that we are running short on small, older affordable homes in Rye. I think that is sort of a punishing event for them to have a property tax reassessment, because for a lot of these people, they're in homes that they've lived in for 30, 40, 50 perhaps years. I've met people on the campaign trail who built their home, raised their children there, and they're now there on retirement. And I don't know that their fixed income would really support a property tax reassessment. And for that, I think at this point, not at this time.
Thank you. Maria?
Interesting question, because if I have lived in my house since 1993, and I get these tax letters every year from all these attorneys who are going to help me reduce my tax bill. So there is an indirect way of reducing your tax bill. So after I received those for a couple of years, I said, hell, I'll do it myself. And I did. So I live in an older home. I haven't added on to it. If I ever sold it, it would be totally raised in this environment, not the environment I hope to create if I were to be elected to serve on city council. But I don't think we have enough information, and I do think there are indirect ways of reassessing properties with or without the help of those lawyers. And by the way, you don't need to use those lawyers. Send in photocopies of what you think your house is worth and should be assessed at, write the letter, and our excellent employees at City Hall will take your words for what they are, and they will read them, and you will be hopefully successful.
Thank you. James?
Thank you. I agree with a lot of what Amy had said. I think a lot of the older houses with more senior people living in those, we need to keep those affordable to them, and raising their taxes would be a mistake. And maybe raising anyone else's just arbitrarily would be a mistake. I think we should focus on the budget, and I think we should focus keeping costs under control, not looking for top-end items to make the budget larger.
Thank you, James. Robin?
I would pretty much do anything I reasonably could to keep a lot of our wonderful longtime residents living in Rye. And we've asked many of them while we've been out campaigning, knocking on doors, how much longer, I mean, the reasons they want to stay and how it's becoming more and more unaffordable for them. But having looked into this issue several times over the last 20 years, there didn't seem to be a great appetite for doing this for the very reasons we've discussed, because is in the end going to be a fair procedure? And how many people, I think people make a commitment when they move here. They know the taxes are high, and I think any good city council is going to do the best they can to keep them as low as possible.
Thank you. Marion?
Okay, so I agree with everybody here that we need to maintain affordability for our seniors who have been here for many years. So new assessments happen at the point of sale. So that's one method of getting them the numbers up. The taxes in Rye, we really are a blessed community that our taxes are 17% of the total tax bill. 22% is county, the rest is school tax. Rye, our tax rate is one of the lowest at 1.64%. We're doing great. We've got great services here. We need to hold the line on that. And I think we need to hold the line on making sure that we keep our seniors here in place and allowing people to stay in Rye. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Question number 3. The council approves major capital expenditures from sewer upgrades to parks. What criteria will you use to decide which projects deserve priority in the next budget cycle? Maria? Oh, wait a minute. Oh, yeah, sorry. Maria.
The council or council? The council approves.
The council approves. Council approves major capital expenditures from sewer upgrades to parks. What criteria will you use to decide which projects deserve priority in the next budget cycle?
So if you ever heard of Maslow's hierarchy, I heard at some point a long time ago in school. So I think safety comes first. So when the council looks at all the capital improvements that are suggested, obviously safety comes first. So sewer improvements seem to me to be a safety issue. So anything to do with flooding, public safety, traffic safety, pedestrian safety will come first. Parks is more of a recreational thing. In my view, it's above the basics of living a safe life in Rye. Although it's very important, and I do truly believe this, for everybody's mental health and physical health to have access to parks. So parks should not be degraded to some secondary issue. Parks are very important. Our kids' recreational activities are very important. But I would, in my opinion, the safety of our homes, our lives, would be priority above recreational activities.
Thank you, Maria. James?
Thank you for that. So, you know, a lot of, I guess, long-term planning is going to come out in the comprehensive plan, and those are going to be, you know, decidedly CapEx projects. But our current CapEx projects, I think, are organized quite well. I would prioritize the ones that, you know, serve our neighborhoods. I think access to recreation is very important. I think it's important for, you know, not just the big fields, but the small ones in local neighborhoods. I'd also focus on projects that are maybe that are improve the quality of life, including safety and quiet enjoyment, making paths. We look at Playland Parkway, that is a obviously a county road, but that pathway that they put on, people enjoy that and use it for running. So then it begs the question, like, where can we do that and maybe bring those things up to the forefront? I'd also say CapEx projects that we can get good grant funding for, should be prioritized because those are the ones, the bigger projects that we can do and get help at the state and federal level. So, for instance, the abolishment of the incinerator, the now defunct incinerator, is a good example of that. There's a lot of government funds available for that if we can put it in the top of our priorities.
Thank you. Robin?
Having studied the annual capital improvement plan and gone to more than my share of city council meetings over the year, the biggest problem we have every year is finding the funding for the projects, the many essential projects that are on this plan year after year and we don't make much progress on. And while I'd love it if we got more grant money is in short supply and in shorter supply for wealthy communities like ours, sadly. But I would definitely want to make sure that, as Maria said, we focus on the essentials. And the essential is always safety and health. And there are so many parts of this that are important, and we definitely need a community conversation on this, which we have not had, and we need a new city manager with us going over these, and we all need to attend the meetings that you go to at City Hall, in which the library, which is represented here tonight by Chris Shoemaker, asks for money, and that should be one of the things that we give money to, because the library is a vital organization, one of many in Rye.
Thank you very much. Where am I? Amy, I've got Amy next. Marion. It's me. Marion.
You're leaving me out. Okay.
Marion.
So we need to look at comprehensive planning, and we need to look at things that health and safety, flooding is an issue. We have gotten money for flooding. We've got $10 million in projects for Locust Avenue, which is multiple projects, but Rye's already obtained $5 million. 50% of that money has been found. So we can't get out there and start looking for money. It's not easy to do so, but as somebody who's run a not-for-profit for many, many years, grant funding is something that we do. It's just part of the livelihood of some of the smaller organizations of being able to work with state, city, county, federal government on procuring funds. So flooding, safety, pedestrian safety, really need to pay a lot of attention to that. And aging in place is important, I think, so we need to be looking at that.
Thank you. Amy?
The good thing about going last is you get to take all the best ideas. I think a lot of this for capital expenditures goes back to what are we trying to do? And so I want to just lay this groundwork with talking a little bit about the comprehensive plan, which can help us identify where to invest. That is for the future. If I had to just do this today, I'm going to say flooding and flooding and flooding. And one of the reasons this is on my mind is I was knocking on doors this weekend. We were over by the Rye Brook, and people were worried that they were going to have water in their house that night. So I think that we can't put this at the forefront fast enough. The second thing that has been echoed here is safety, especially with these big developments coming through in Portchester and the addition at Rye Country Day. Pedestrian safety and traffic management is going to be paramount for us to be able to use our downtown and for our children to be able to stay safe. And then finally, I'm going to say parks, because this community has spoken loud and clear in the past couple years that parks and recreation facilities are important to them. We have Gagliardo Park right now, which is in desperate need of repair, and I think that that is just as important for those families in those neighborhoods to have a safe local place to go to as it is living near Midland or the high school or Milton. Thank you.
Thank you very much. The fourth question. Rye's aging stormwater and sewer systems are directly under council oversight. What immediate steps should the council take to reduce backups and overflows? James, you're first.
Well, I think that things are already in place to do that. I think part of the Save the Sound resolution was for the city to actively start working on those, and I don't purport to be a civil engineer and tell you exactly everything they're doing, but that's an active thing that the city is working on right now. So I think as a city council, we're not actually working on those projects, but we should show good governance over those projects and bring, the city manager and other DPW officials to the city council to give frequent status updates so that we know we can add transparency to the process and know where we stand on those things.
Thank you. Robin?
I would actually say that Rye is making relatively good progress on just that. So many of the open streets you see, it's not just replacing the underground utilities, it's sewer and infrastructure. So that's the one area in which I'm not as concerned as I am about flooding and traffic safety.
Thank you. Marion?
So for the flooding, we can reduce it. We're not going to eliminate it. We have to work in collaboration with other communities because it is not centralized to Rye. It is a regional problem. So example would be North Castle, Armonk, Purchase, and Harrison working on that Bowman Dam together. A lot of back and forth with SUNY Purchase on a project to do berms in the wooded areas to slow down the water. A lot of back and forth that's been going on for years. The Locust Avenue project is moving along, but one thing that I see that really needs to start being built in some of those projects is looking at the walls on the brook, on the library and Rye Y side, because they are starting to crumble and they need to be included in those projects.
Thank you. Amy?
When I think about stormwaters and sewers, again, I go back to some of what the city has done great at, as Robin alluded to. We have started to fix some of these pipes. I have personal experience with this because in Hurricane Ida during 2021, my neighborhood and many of my neighbors flooded for the first time ever in our neighborhood. And Ryan Coyne, the city engineer, came and did I guess, kind of a review of what went wrong with the neighbors, which I commend him for because he stood us on the corner of our neighborhood and he went over the sewer system, a great education, public awareness over some of these issues. And it turns out, because I live in Hicks Park, that during a storm like that, the Oakland Beach Avenue storm drain gets really overwhelmed with the influx of stormwater. And when I think about what a big issue that is with all of this drain, collecting water from all of these neighborhoods and emptying into Disbrow Park, it's a big issue. But going back to comprehensive planning, one of the things that we have to do is think about these new developments and the rules around them, because we are adding more houses, splitting lots, adding more houses, and overwhelming these systems. So I think it is a really important issue that we're going to have to come up against with our capital expenditure planning.
Thank you. Maria?
I think most things have been said. The one thing I can add is I experienced a lot of paving, ripping up, utility companies, the city of Rye. And I would suggest that from a sustainability and environmental perspective, it's pretty bad not to coordinate all the efforts among all the utilities in the city of Rye. So I commend the city of Rye for fixing the system, but could we please coordinate with all the utilities that then come in next week and dig up our streets again after they have been repaired? And my motto will be, whether I'm elected or not, paid once, saved twice.
Thank you very much. Question 5. What role should the council play in supporting small businesses in Rye? Do you favor tax incentives, zoning relief, or other tools to attract and retain shops and restaurants? Robin?
Well, I did run a small business through a lot of economic turmoil, by the way, starting in 2001, and we moved on to 2008, 2014. And I was amazed that during COVID, the mayor, who's still the mayor, said to the restaurants, I can save you, but I can't save retail Rye. And he was quoted, he confirmed the quote, and I struggled whether or not to print it because I couldn't believe that he said that. And I know and support local business. I shop downtown, I have an office downtown, and over the years we've had some good efforts. We need to restart it so that we don't end up a town with only service businesses such as nail salons and hair salons. There are many people who would like to run a business, own a business downtown. And other than, if they don't own the building they're in, like Woodrow Jewelers and June and Ho, the likelihood of their being able to afford the rents is it's a long-term question. And yes, I would do lots of things and have conversations with them. Thank you.
Thank you. Marianne?
Rye has a wonderful merchants association with the, I'm sorry, I get too comfortable. Wonderful merchants association that was actually started by Catherine Parker way back in the day. And it is a great place for our council and members of the community to get to know these businesses, what their challenges are, and work with them. The nature of retail has changed, which has changed the downtown drastically. People are buying from Amazon everywhere you go through town. There is a truck and somebody's dropping things off. So businesses have changed, nail salons, restaurants, etc., because people are not really going in to purchase their clothing and their shoes. There are a few places still left in Rye, but the nature of has changed. Probably about 10 years ago, I think we had a bunch of banks. It was what came in was banks, and it kind of flowed through. I think we need to just talk to the business owners and really figure out what it is that they need to help succeed.
Thank you. Amy?
Transparency and community partnerships is something that we have really emphasized in our campaign. And I think Marianne really hit the nail on the head by first starting out and talking to them and finding out what they need. We also have a really robust Chamber of Commerce. I think that there's probably could be more communication with them. And then just sharing a story from the other day, a friend of mine had a daughter with a recital and she needed to go buy a pair of shoes because if everybody remembers, last year's shoes don't fit in the fall. And she was saying she wants to go downtown to Shoes and More and buy the shoes, but can't stand thinking about the parking. And so parking and downtown parking is really a big issue for us. How many times have we thought about running down there, running down to get something to eat, and at this point, I am thinking about parking. What time of day should I meet my friend for coffee? What time of day am I going to find a spot to eat lunch? I've been going at 1:30 because I know parking is not going to be there at noon. And this goes for retail as well. So I think going and, again, diving back into this comprehensive plan and looking at some of these issues that make Rye more consumer friendly is really important.
Thank you. Maria?
So I don't really know what retail means, but I guess it's shopping for products that you bring home in a basket. Because many of you may know, I actually bike or walk to Rye. Now I'm fortunate enough to live within a reasonable walking and biking distance to Rye. So I understand what you're saying, but we can all walk and bike. We don't have to drive. So I am much in favor of making it more walker-friendly, more biker-friendly, and as much as I'm in favor of fixing the parking lots at the back of June and Ho and that plaza. But our kids don't have to drive a car each person every day to go and get a pair of shoes. They should be able to walk or bike. I'm sorry, I grew up in Sweden. We didn't have a car per person there. So I do believe in our amazing Chamber of Commerce, our amazing Rye Garden Club that does so many things for our downtown. And I do believe we should have a vibrant downtown. And some things should be done to encourage small businesses to be able to flourish downtown and the diversity of operations.
Thank you, Maria. James?
Thank you. So I would be more of a libertarian in this kind of answer and say that, as far as the makeup of the stores downtown and what they deliver to our community, I let the market decide. I think the city council is more in charge of painting with a broader brushstroke. So looking at areas where we supported downtown, outdoor seating, which recently came up as a big deal, and we unanimously made sure that people still had their outdoor seating. The community likes it, and the restaurants like it. We supported lights last year or 2 years ago. Those are made the downtown look and feel more festive. And I think that's what we're talking about in the comprehensive plan is what's the look, the character of downtown look like, and making sure that the developers make buildings that fit within the look and feel and develop it to the way that we want it developed, and I think that's, public input and that we can facilitate, but we let the community weigh in that quite heavily.
Thank you very much. So that's the end of the prepared questions. I do have a few questions from the audience. So number 6, this is a volunteer role. This is a volunteer role. How has your volunteer service here in Rye shaped how you will govern Rye? And that is Marion is first.
Wow. Okay, so I started out as a paid person for Kids Space of Rye after school program, but I became the board chair. And from the inside out, I learned how to strategic planning, comprehensive planning, basically the same thing. Taking that organization from an organization that was struggling, and at one point we threatened to close, and that actually worked for us because people came out to help us. But it was something that has prepared me to be able to run other not-for-profits in my life. Running my own business, so managing money, planning ahead, managing staff, fiscal responsibility, but also it really requires collaboration and working across the table with multiple entities. And I think that's the important part of working in a not-for-profit or a business, is that piece of it.
Thank you. Amy?
Well, I'm going to start by saying I have a 6th grader and an 8th grader, and so most people can appreciate a lot of my volunteer time has been in school, starting when they were 2 years old. So I sort of grew up in that school system, volunteering and meeting many families, some of them my dear friends at this point. But really what I learned from that experience is that we all know Rye is great, our schools are great, but what makes them exceptional is the volunteers, the PTAs, and the boards behind them. And I definitely take that with me, and will take that with me on council, because I realize I don't have to be the expert. I actually have the experts on these boards and commissions. So that has really been a lesson for me. I, from there, joined the Rye Sustainability Committee, and got very involved with just exactly what kind of world we were creating and leaving for our children. And we did amazing work under the leadership of Sarah Goddard at the time, and James Ward was coming in right as I was leaving that. But just the grassroots, boots on the ground efforts that volunteer work takes in this community is something that I've really taken away from that experience. And then currently I'm at 5 Steps to 5, which is a Portchester organization, but heavily relied upon and funded by Rye families. And I'm chairing the strategic planning committee for that right now. We're trying to expand our mission and take it out into other communities. And so lots of great experiences.
Thank you very much. Maria?
So I don't have a lot of formal, fancy titles insofar as Rye volunteer experience, but I will tell you, for the last 32 years living here, I bike and walk to the station almost every day. The number of people I met that I know, you all know Ken and Keith, right? If you don't live in Rye. The people I know, the people I care for, the people I talk to every day on my way to and from the station, now I am retired since end of last year, have become my community. In addition, I raised 2 sons together with my husband in Rye. There's not a sports team we haven't been manager or coach or whatever on. I don't want to dwell upon it because I'm not bragging about it, because it was a pleasure and a privilege. I am totally committed to Rye. Was that stop?
No.
I saw the stop.
30.
Okay. I thought it was short. I am totally committed to Rye. And if you think I haven't done enough volunteer experience without having the fancy titles, you are wrong. I have been interviewed as the biking mom to the train station, as the one who commuted with her 10-day-old son, as the one mom in Rye who was commuting back and forth to New York every day for 30 years.
Thank you very much. James?
Thank you. So as I mentioned in my opening statement, I've been involved in the Rye Sustainability Committee and the Rye Sustainability Foundation. They're a very important part of who I am and how I want to influence the city. Under my leadership, we moved to a climate smart community. That's something that not only has pushed us in a more sustainable direction, but also led to funding. And I think when we go to comprehensive planning, we want to think about sustainable elements. Sustainable elements are things that make the city not only good for us, but good for the next generation and generations to come. The second thing that it really influences me is I'm a Rye hockey coach. So I coach 11 to 12-year-olds. And if you want to know about project management, try getting 15, 11, and 12-year-olds in a locker room to settle down, to think about their game, to stop hitting each other, get out on the ice and have fun, but also win. I think that's taught me a lot about, having an impact, but also motivating people to do things, and also making, aiding in, helping the development of kids, which are a vibrant part of our community.
Thank you very much. Robin?
I think that I have a long history with nonprofits, long before we moved here as well, and I think it really taught me to listen, make sure I knew who the users were of various organizations. I worked on budgets for the library. I researched what area libraries were doing to make sure that we were doing the best possible job we could and what hours we should be open. I think I have a history with 5 Steps to 5, as well as the Art Center and the library, of helping them expand their mission and make sure that when people had an idea for doing something else, adding to the load, that we found a way to do that. And I think that some of the proudest moments were probably working with homeless families, after school education for homeless families in San Diego, and getting also in San Diego, different for the private school our sons attended, interviewing 100 Vietnamese students, all of whose parents had come over on boats, helping 5 of them get scholarships at one school, and that program still goes on.
Thank you very much. Question number 7. As a council member, you'll vote on zoning changes that affect Rye's character. Do you believe the city should allow more accessory dwelling units, ADUs, or multi-family housing, and under what conditions? Amy, you're first.
This is a great question. And it's a great question because it's a complicated question. Because I think some people might listen to this question and think, well, I don't want my neighbor building an ADU so they can Airbnb it. But the reality of it is they probably want to build an accessory dwelling unit to house a parent or to house a child. And so I think I'm going to harp back again to the comprehensive plan. We will have these exact questions answered. And we're going to have these questions answered because we need to go out and find out from the community what the community wants and needs. Many of us have children, mine aren't there yet, but many of us have children who are living with us, who are commuting into the city because housing is unaffordable. It's unaffordable in a lot of Westchester County, it's unaffordable in New York City, and it's an interesting question with the accessory dwelling units, when it's a really great question because it's not one I anticipated coming up. So I think this goes back to the comprehensive plan. Let's find out from the community, let's involve the community, and let's see what is needed.
Thank you. Maria?
I totally agree with Amy on let's find out in the comprehensive plan process. Now remember, the comprehensive plan is a process that will result in a document that will be a guidance for future city councils. It's not law. Nothing is going to happen once you have a comprehensive plan. But then city council will base future legislation on the comprehensive plan. So don't kid yourselves. Don't think this is the solution to all our issues. In the meantime, we need to figure out how do we solve the immediate situation? How do we work to make Rye what we want over the next 2 years when we can without a comprehensive plan? So we can do a lot of things without the comprehensive plan, but in that comprehensive plan, we will be able to determine if the city people want us to allow accessory buildings, garages with additional apartments on top. And I think the city residents of Rye should be able to decide that in the plan, which will not be law. It will be just a policy document. Remember that. Nobody else can tell you anything else.
Thank you. James?
So it's a difficult question. I was glad to not have to do this one first. We mentioned comprehensive planning, but I think we want to mention desired outcomes and what we think. I mean, I've lived in a neighborhood for now 12 years and seen very small houses raised and then have very large houses put up in the maximum footprint. And although my house value increases because of that, I'm worried that access points in Rye are limited when we start to build, when we build things for only one segment of society. So I don't know what the exact answer is, but I know that we want, for instance, teachers and other community members to live close. We want places where people can age into and not have to worry about the size. Like if you're trying to scale down in Rye and you can't find a house with a small enough footprint that you can afford, you're going to have to move out, and then we're going to have a very stratified community of people coming in from jobs that are good enough that they can afford a really expensive place, and then leaving when they're done raising their children, and I think that puts the community at a loss.
Thank you. Robin?
Well, I've lived through and followed a lot of different city councils, and this question is not a new one, and I have no issue with the creation of a new plan after 40 years of since the last one, but I don't think in certain areas we really can afford to wait a lot longer on development, which is what we're talking about. I know the question is about multifamily housing. There is so little entry-level housing in Rye that it concerns everyone. And yes, if you make a salary of $1 million a year, this is, no problem. But that's not, I miss the diversity I found when we first moved to Rye. There were definitely people of modest income and in very happy in modest-sized homes. So the need for multifamily housing is real. Where we're going to put it is a big question. We had a hard time figuring out where we're going to put affordable housing, and we've made small steps in this area, but I know that a lot of people are, I look at the development on Grapple Street and the one on the corner of Oakland Beach Avenue and Hicks, and I think, how did we really approve these projects? They are not good for Rye, notwithstanding their high tax base.
Thank you. Marion?
I agree with Amy. I agree with Robin here. We do need multifamily housing. Like you, I've been here for a very long time, and we've seen the diversity of the community has dwindled because the rising cost of housing here. The average cost of a house is $1.875 million in Rye. That is the average. That precludes a lot of people from purchasing here. So as I'm out walking around, I talked to a young man who moved back, went to Rye High School. I believe he graduated in 2012. Married, had moved in Texas, and decided I want to run from Texas quick. I'm going home. He got home, and he can't buy a house here, so he's living with his parents in Rye Brook. They're about to have a child. He's out on, in front of the snackery and just lamenting that he would like to live in Rye. Maybe a good multi-unit would suffice for someone like him to be able to give him entree.
Thank you very much. Question number 8. What qualities will you look for when selecting a new city manager? Maria, you're first.
So I didn't know we were allowed to talk on this topic because I understand it's been so confidential and that the current city council members haven't even
It was from the audience.
What qualities? I would look for somebody who has, somebody said something? No? Okay. Who has experience in running a similar situation, job, probably a city manager from some other community in the Northeast, fairly, close by. And I think I would look for somebody who is truly dedicated to people, who are open to every person, what color, race, anybody who comes into Rye, in order to make sure we don't have any future conflicts about who we're serving, who we are. And I would think that a city manager would be able to afford to live in Rye. I've heard that we can't request that somebody lives in Rye because it's too expensive. But I would hope we could find a starter home. Maybe the community can help out. So we can have a city manager living in Rye. Living, feeling, being with us.
Thank you. James?
Thank you. So for a city manager, we obviously have a few requirements. I think people have voiced them pretty much, like experience at the seat, ability to run a large organization, familiarity with New York laws and the bodies that are decision-making, like knowing people up in Albany and so forth. I think there's another quality that we need, and that's a team builder, able to build the staff, make sure that the staff are getting the opportunities, and then we're keeping retention. amongst those staff. Why is that important? Is because if you look at some of the ways that we're like currently saving money, for instance, it's because we have staff like that can do big projects. And you look at what the DPW did for the Locust Ave parking lot, for instance, that was paved, reformatted and paved by the city, saving us a lot of CapEx budget. You want a city manager that can bring people together, that takes care of their people, and can keep those people on at Rye. And I think that's it.
Thank you. Robin?
Well, I never disagree with Maria, but I will say that one requirement of the job, based on our last city manager, who was so first-rate and put up with an awful lot from certain members of the council, is he, unlike so many of his predecessors, had no experience in this area. He was smart, he was a born leader, and Rye continues to have a very slim staff. We don't have multi-layers in City Hall. They operate, they do everything, and they're good at doing everything, and they get along. And yes, that person needs to be able to get along, and the City Council needs to respect that person and work well with them. And I think the sooner we get someone, and I heard from Frank Culross, who was in the position on and off for about 30 years, because we kept calling him back when a city manager left or was fired. He said he's not doing it again. But we need someone like Greg Usry. We need another Greg Usry. He set a very high bar, and I would hope that we would find someone who met the bar.
Thank you. Marion?
All right, so we need someone who's creative, smart, a leader, somebody who's collaborative, who's going to work well with others. I think the person at the top sets the tone for the culture of an organization. So we need someone who is going to be a great leader with the staff, who understands funding, who has worked with various governmental organizations, has been somebody who can go out in the community and meet with the people and understand the people.
Thank you. Amy?
I think everybody has said really great things about what we're looking for in a city manager, and I think Greg Esri did leave big shoes to fill. So just echoing what everybody else has said, I don't have too much new to add, except for I would like this person to be able to think creatively about the relationships and the partnerships that we're going to need to develop to solve some of our problems in Rye. For example, flooding. When we look at all of the issues that originate upstream, we know that flooding isn't just a Rye problem. It's not going to only be solved in Rye. It's going to take somebody who has the ability to think across municipalities, to partner with the state, partner with the county, and partner with the feds if we have anything left. And really be thinking about how those relationships and partners are going to be important to meeting some of the challenges that we face in Rye.
Thank you, Amy. Question number 9. In your opinion, does the current tree ordinance properly balance the need to protect the city's old-grown trees from overdevelopment with the freedom of homeowners to address their own private tree issues? James, you start.
So we can say yes and no. So I think it was a good attempt, and I think there's some good language in there, but I worry about some of Rye's oldest trees. I right now am running a project to plant oak trees in Rye. Some oak trees over 100 years old, 200 years old, are currently existing in Rye, and we should put extra protections on those. I think I like the way that it was written, and I think you want to look at things like base height, circumference. That's the height at 4.5 feet. You want to look at the type of trees, but I think like some trees, for instance, invasive trees that aren't really good. Like if someone was saying, I want to cut down a Norwegian maple, I'd say, let me help you. If someone was saying, I want to cut down a beautiful oak tree that adds not only to the community, not only serves us in helping us mitigate flooding and so forth, I'd say, no, I'm going to tie myself to your tree and not let you do that. So I don't think those protective aspects are in there. I think it purely looks at base height radius, and it doesn't look at our invasives versus, important trees.
Thank you. Robin?
I'm very much for Rye having a tree law. I frankly wish we had passed the one that Carolyn Cunningham spearheaded about 20 years ago, because it was just about perfect. And I do agree certainly with James about oaks, because they are the trees that absorb the most water, which is a big subject tonight. And I also am very concerned that if the tree law was rushed through, we don't need to go back and talk about what happened, but are we really sure, and are we asking people who take out a great number of trees to replant what they took out? Are we asking them to put oaks and other natives in there when they did a huge building project and tore out a lot of trees? And how many penalties have we asked be paid? So I think it's a work in progress, but I think we have so many things to address. It may not be at the very top of our list, sadly, but I would definitely like to see it beefed up more and still respect property rights.
Thank you. Marion?
I agree with James. Robert, we need to protect our trees. Our oak trees, as they say, very important to us. Native plantings, important to us. Should people have the right, and I think that was part of the question, is do they have the right to take trees down? I think we need to limit it. This is a very small community. We should all be working together. We should be educating. I'm thinking in my head when he was talking, years ago, there was a mayor in Bronxville, Mary Marvin, and she had this Hug a Tree campaign that I can just see her out there hugging the trees, because they are so precious to us that we really do need to take care of them. It takes a long time for another tree to replace.
Thank you. Amy?
I think there was an article in the Rye Record about this recently, and I will give them credit because they're asking the right question. The tree law that was passed, I think, is a step in the right direction. I don't think it solved the whole problem. And part of this is because I don't think there's any way currently that we measure our canopy. And so until we really even know what we have, I think we need to try to be preserving our tree canopy, of course, but we also need to know what we have. And whether that's aerial footage via drones, but some kind of counting system to exactly know where we are starting. And James brings up a good issue as well, just for people who maybe aren't as familiar with invasive versus non-invasive. When you have invasive trees, the root systems are very shallow. They stay at the top and they tend to grow shallow and wide. And these are the type of trees that you'll see buckling on your sidewalks that will grow into roads and cause damage. So a tree isn't just a tree. The right kind of trees are important. But I think this is a tricky subject because we have to balance property rights. Nobody wants to move in, have their dream garden, but can't cut down that tree in the backyard because the city says no. So it's something that we need to continue to review with the law. We need to see if we're trying to make the progress that we're intending to make, and continue the work on it. I think it's something that needs to be continued to look at and protected.
Thank you, Amy. Maria?
I'm a big tree hugger, so one of those you mentioned. I live in a property where we've lost many trees over the last 30 years, 2 storms or less. We've lived in that house. And I do believe that we need to have a law protecting trees of a certain species, size, and location. I do believe that the current tree law was a rushed work. It is very unuser-friendly. I have read it about 20 times. I can't figure out what I need to do to take down a dying, tiny little Leland spruce in my backyard. It is also it's a heavy burden on the city staff to try to administer this tree law. On the other hand, I do believe that we do need to protect our trees just as, and property rights come in. You can't even change a window on your house to a smaller house without a permit. What is that about property rights? It's the same thing. So I believe species, location, size, but it has to be user-friendly. If you've got a dying little thing, you should be able to take it out. We should be more permissive, and it shouldn't be burdensome. And by the way, for a developer, $1,000 for a fine, it's nothing. They're happily paying a couple of $100,000 to clear cut a lot.
Yeah. Thank you. Question number 10. The Recreation Commission has advocated for projects like artificial turf at Nursery Field. How would you balance youth sports needs with environmental and neighborhood concerns when these projects come before the council? Robin.
That's a good one. I have to say, and I was not, having spent a lot of years in California and learning that California, for one, was banning the creation of additional artificial turf fields statewide, that caught my attention. So when Rye was setting about to improve Nursery Field, which certainly needed improvement, I asked a lot of questions, and that process seemed to have already been decided because the mayor was already in favor of it and had told the people who are willing to fund this plan to redo it, that it was going to happen. I didn't like the process being rushed, but I have an 11-year-old grandson, an 8-year-old granddaughter who live here, and I go to every field, and Gagliardo, they've actually made some improvements at. I'd like to see them relook at Disbro Park and make sure that no matter what happens, that recycling center is not where it is, so that we can have safer fields in Rye. And as artificial turf concerns about toxicity are diminishing, I'm sure that we will be building more artificial turf fields. The question is, are we going to improve the fields to the level that they are in other communities? And many parents who attend these can tell you about those fields being better.
Thank you. Marion?
I think we're going to have to look at this one by one for each specific location and assess whether turf is feasible. You look at Rye High School, how many times have we replaced that? Multiple times. So, well, we're here. Forgot that. So we have to look one by one at each of these fields. I recently was talking to a little girl in CVS, and she's a soccer player. It's like, oh, have you played at Nursery Field? How'd you like it? Well, I played there once, and I fell, and I cut my leg, and I don't want to play there anymore. Out of the mouth of a babe. So we also have to talk to the kids. How is it working for them? I don't know. So let's talk to the kids. Let's see environmentally, how it washes out.
Amy?
There's no denying that athletics are a central part of family life in Rye. I have been on these fields for over 10 years now, starting when my kids were 2, and my time on these fields has only increased as they've gotten older. But I don't think you can definitively say that turf is always better or grass is always better, because it really depends on the need of the field. And some people think that turf is more accessible, more reliable. Other people think that it's out of the character of Rye and it's got too many environmental concerns. I think it's got to be determined on a case-by-case basis for what the need of the community is and for what the intended purpose of the field is.
Thank you. Maria?
So I'm Swedish, and as you know, Sweden is at the forefront of sustainability and environmental responsible practices. Sweden is a high user of artificial turf. So, and I'm also very much involved with my Swedish university, which is a very large and very, very research-focused university. So I believe in the future of artificial turf. There are alternatives in Sweden now where we have biodegradable artificial turf. And so I believe in the future of technology. The future of technology will come up with artificial turf that's biodegradable. But in the meantime, let's stop using plastic bottles.
Yes.
I brought my own.
Okay.
Are you finished?
Just to
Yes.
say, you concluded because you put the 30-second sign up. Am I starting now?
James?
Sorry. Oh, okay.
James, you're on.
Yep. So the original question was balancing youth sport needs and environmental concerns, and I don't think those things are in opposition. And when we think of youth, we think of what's best for our children and what's best for the environment. So I hope we think of those things together. You know, when it comes to Nursery Field, which the original phrasing of the question was in, I go by there today, I live very close to it, and I look and say, pretty nice job. I see people playing organized sports on it. I see the DPW did a beautiful job with the replantings, and it looks very good, I must say. I still have concerns over whether there is an environmental impacts to flooding, environmental impacts for the long-term use of plastics. I talked to a professional lacrosse players, and I said, hey, what do you think of turf fields? He's like, not bad, you know, there's dangerous to, you know, playing on them. You got to worry about ligaments and so forth. But one of the things is during the summer, those fields get very hot. Much hotter than regular fields. I think the thing about Nursery Field is I feel like we didn't have dialogue on what are the alternatives when we went into it. It really came into City Council, and I was sitting in the audience like everybody else, so I didn't see everything on it, but I thought, wow, we're really not thinking about any of the alternatives till it was really late in the process. And that's when someone from Martha's Vineyard who had grass fields, and they talked about managing them. So I would like more community engagement on what's the best solutions.
Thank you, James. We have one extra question, question number 11, and I don't quite understand it, so let me know if you do. If elected, would you vote to continue Rye's participation to have citizens opted in to, as a default, Sustainable Westchester, and why?
Do you want some help on that question?
I think have citizens opted into Sustainable Westchester as a default, and why? Would you vote to continue Rye's participation to have citizens opted into Sustainable Westchester as a default, and why? And Marion, you're first.
Okay, so I would continue, and Sustainable Westchester, the only way that a community can be part of that effort is you have to use the opt-in. The opt-in is something that will only pertain to new people moving into the community. They need to opt in. Anyone who wants to opt out can opt out, and it is up to us to provide the education to the community. I think there's a misconception that the major part of our Con Ed bill is the actual bill, and not the delivery is the part that costs so much money. So yes, the sustainable part is a little bit more than the Con Edison part, but if you are a concerned citizen and you are looking for sustainability efforts, and I prefer to support a green America.
Thank you. Amy?
Yes, I would vote to continue that option where you are able to opt in as the default. And the reason why is, for those of us who still believe climate change is a thing, it gives us a place to put our money aligned with where our values are. And I think that is an important choice as a consumer. But more importantly, I just want to say that, really our issue here is Con Ed's ability to raise prices. And if I get on council, I'm going to do what Josh Nathan did and other people in our city and on our boards did, and that is to put pressure on Con Ed to stop the rate hikes. Shelley Mayer has done a wonderful job challenging Con Ed and trying to keep those rate hikes lower for their consumers. But really, we need to be looking at Con Ed and why delivery charges and service charges are the same. I'm opted into Sustainable Westchester. The way it's purchased is it's as a future almost, in bulk. Sometimes it's more expensive, sometimes it's not, but it gives me a choice and it really helps me to not be forced into the monopoly of Con Ed.
Thank you. Maria.
So being having retired as a corporate lawyer and seeing all these fancy financial products over 35 years of my life, my belief is that we're not getting green energy through Westchester Power. Somebody's buying some certificate and some investment banker somewhere is making a ton of money based on this. And I don't like it. And I don't like, coming from Sweden, that I am forced in and have to make a choice to opt out of a free choice. Now, believe me, I haven't opted out. I am still buying that power, but I don't believe the choice should be made for me. I'm a free citizen. I should be able to make my choice, and the choice should be clearly stated by the city of Rye if they have opted in for me. I think it is totally not appropriate for somebody to make that choice for me when I otherwise have a right to that choice. And I would like to see who's making money out of this. And don't think we're getting green energy coming into our homes. No way.
Thank you. James.
Thank you. I voted yes to Westchester Power. Those contracts are a choice for Rye, and it's the only choice that the City Council could make that gave the community choice. If we chose instead to default to Con Ed, then you would be left as every individual to go and find out some alternative way, and that's very confusing for a lot of people. Sustainable Westchester, who organizes Westchester Power, found the cheapest contracts for us to get into. Yes, they're fixed. Yes, rates sometimes are higher, sometimes they're lower. But if going into those, if you don't like it, you can opt out. Opting out takes 2 minutes. You can go online and do it. The other thing is, as Amy alluded to, why would I want to give Con Ed a monopoly, my whole business? There was a lot of confusion about rate hikes, but a lot of what drove Con Ed bills was not the rate, but the delivery charges. And they continue to raise the delivery charges because they're a monopoly. It had very little to do with the rates that we put on with Westchester Power.
Thank you very much. That is the last question. We will now, thank you very much, candidates. We will now have closing statements. As I said earlier, closing statements will be...
Oh, you mean...
Oh, I forgot Robin.
All right, Josh.
I forgot Robin.
That Josh is in trouble.
I apologize, Robin.
I have to say that I agree with some part of everything that was said, and I just want to make sure, because I don't really know anyone who is against sustainable everything. I do know pretty much everyone I know is not happy about the fact that the county portion of our tax bill is 23%, and sometimes we wonder how valuable the county is to us. But I think that as long as I don't like the fact that the choice was made for us. I don't like Con Ed, which raised the price so much during COVID, it was unconscionable. But I think as long as we have an opt-in and opt-out, I think we'll be discussing this down the road, and I think for the time being, that's what we have. So we're fighting Con Ed, and we need to put more pressure on them for sure. But I have nothing against Sustainable Westchester. So.
Thank you very much, Robin. And thank you all candidates. We will now have closing statements. As I said earlier, closing statements will be given in the reverse order as the opening statements. Each candidate will have up to 2 minutes to make their closing statement. James, you're first.
Thank you. Again, I want to thank the League of Women Voters for the opportunity to speak directly to the voters tonight. It's been a great honor to serve on the City Council the past year, and I'm proud of the results we delivered for Rye. I'm running for re-election because in so many areas, it's time to get the job done. We need to deliver a comprehensive master plan with sustainability elements, not in a decade from now, but within 18 months. We need to move forward on key flooding mitigation projects to protect our residents from the next Hurricane Ida. We need to protect our neighbors from overdevelopment and to find solutions for parking and cell services. We need to build a climate-smart city that is more energy efficient, fiscally prudent, and storm resilient. On November 4th, I hope I can count on your vote for our Democratic ticket. Vote Row A to protect the best of Rye and plan for what's next. Thank you very much.
Thank you, James. Maria.
Thank you very much for listening to me today. And as I said, somebody texted us before this event, Robin and me, and I said, quoting from a movie, and you guess which one it is. We're just two women standing here in front of you asking the Rye voters to like us. Notting Hill. So to conclude, what are my top priorities if I were to be elected to City Council? We must move forward to show actual results in solving the flooding problems. And that relates to Blind Brook, it relates to Beaver Swamp Creek, it relates to sewers, bridges, everything. I'm very concerned about preserving Rye's character, so we need a new comprehensive plan so we can continue to develop the Rye we all have come to love and not compromise our friendly neighborhoods and wonderful downtown. The plan will address all the issues we've talked about tonight: safety, development, environmental, sustainability, but it will be just policies. In the plan, we will have guidance for what then the City Council will have to decide in new laws. In the meantime, we need to continue our work before the plan is in place. We need to continue repaving. We need to repave our downtown parking areas. We need to make sure our bike situation and traffic situation and walking situation in and from Rye to school and Jerry's Market and wherever people are walking is safe and sound. I want us, as I said before, to continue. Oh, you didn't give me the 30 seconds.
Finish your sentence.
Finish your sentence. Make it a long one.
But most important is the city manager search. We are now without a permanent city manager, and the city's 160 employees deserve better. Let's get him or her hired. Let's not perfection be the enemy of the good. Thank you for listening, and thank you for coming.
Thank you, Maria. Amy.
Well, thank you again to the League of Women Voters and to all of you who have given us generously your attention tonight. We've talked about flooding, development, and how Rye can grow responsibly. But what this election is about is trust. Trust that our city will protect our neighbors from flooding, trust that development will reflect our character and not overwhelm it, and trust that your representatives will listen, work together, and deliver results without partisan drama. My career, whether serving at the Pentagon, working in healthcare, or volunteering here in Rye, has always been about solving complex problems through collaboration. I believe that's the exact kind of leadership that this city needs right now. I'm not interested in scoring political points. I'm interested in fixing problems and doing it with respect, transparency, and a sense of partnership. I'm proud to be running with Josh Nathan, James Ward, Marion Anderson, a team that understands Rye's challenges and shares a commitment to working together for real solutions. In the years ahead, we can make Rye flood resilient. We can update our comprehensive plan so that development fits our values, and we can protect our trees, strengthen our downtown, and ensure safe streets and fields for our kids. But that only happens if we work together, across neighborhoods, across parties, and across generations, to preserve what makes this place so special. I love this community. It's where my husband and I are raising our kids. We've built friendships, and it's where I want every family to feel secure and heard. So on November 4th, I hope that you'll vote for steady, thoughtful leadership. Vote for the team that will preserve the best and plan for what's next. Thank you.
Thank you, Amy. Marion?
Well, for Marion has been here for her entire life, maybe in and out a little bit. I have a very long history of volunteering in the community. On Good Space, been on the Rye Human Rights Commission. I've worked throughout the county. I've been chair of the Westchester County Women's Advisory Board. I've worked in the PTA. I've worked in the UPK committee. I've worked on the Westcott board. I was a vice chair at Carver Center. I am a giver that works very hard in the community because I care about people. In my work, I've worked at not-for-profit organizations. I worked for Andrews Children's Center, which is a very large not-for-profit. Rye City has a budget of what, $22 million? Andrews has a $35 million budget. Very large not-for-profit. I was a division director and the executive leadership team to their community service division, which meant that I was working throughout Yonkers, Mount Vernon, all of Westchester County with police, with governments, dealing with grants, working with people one-on-one. I am an early childhood innovator. I love kids. It's my life working with children. And I really enjoy working with seniors and working for the Alzheimer's Association, which is a Westchester association, but it's here. It's here. Across the board, I've spent my life working for people, and I would very much like to work for the people of Rye. Thank you. Along with Amy, James.
Thank you, Marion. Robin?
The office all of us here tonight are running for requires setting and accomplishing local goals, which can be lofty. Sustainability is not limited to simply planting more natives. It's about pursuing what's practical and long-term and attainable. The issues that I champion are all about safety and duration. Flooding, absolutely number one. We have a Rye Flood Advisory Committee. We need to meet with them. We need to meet with the community and go over what we can do about flood mitigation on a local level while we wait for help from the county, the state, the Fed to help contain the flow of water upstream before the next major flood. And like everyone else, we were all worried last weekend. We need to install a proper crosswalk at Theodore Frem, Purchase and Purdy, where hundreds of children and commuters walk and bike every day. It's chaotic. No pedestrian knows when they can cross safely. We also need to fix the sidewalks, which are falling apart, and repave the parking lots. I think we need to ask the Public Safety Commissioner to focus on traffic violations, illegal U-turns, speeding, passing other people. I've had an office in downtown Rye for over 20 years, and I know how much we need a downtown police officer. I would also, as somebody who spends a lot of time going to the recycling center, but more importantly, going to games at Disbro Park, We have to, that recycling center, which is open 24/7, is home to rats, and just last Friday, a rabid raccoon. Best yet, move the thing and secure the gates. Kids play baseball and softball there, and having a dump right by them defies common sense. Having covered Rye City Council meetings, not on Zoom, but with pad and pen, I know how local government works and doesn't.
Thank you very much, Robin, and thank you to all of the candidates. Thank you to the City of Rye for hosting this candidates forum, to the candidates for their willingness to serve in a volunteer capacity, and to all of you for your community support. Thank you also to our League of Women Voters team who put together tonight's forum. Please consider supporting the work we do by joining the League or making a donation to our Education Foundation. Election Day is Tuesday, November 4th from 7 a.m. to 9 p.m. Early voting starts on October 25th and ends on November 2nd. For information on registering to vote or your voting location, please call the district clerk or look to the district website under voting. A comprehensive voter guide can be found at vote411.org. That concludes our candidate forum for the evening. Good night and have a safe trip home.